Howdy there, Isaac here. Zarbon has always been one of my favorite villains, and I mean, he's probably the only canon henchman that has his own transformation. He's also supposedly a talented tactician, and if you watch a gameplay on here, you'll know I enjoy myself some tactics. Pair all this with the fact he offered to join Vegeta before he died, and this what if practically writes itself. This what if is partially an April Fool's what if, but I write by the seam of my pants, so let's just see where this goes, shall we? What if Zarbon joined the Zfighters? The story starts now. Okay, so we start our story with a rather early scene. So we all know that Zarbon is haughty and stuck up, yet had a rivalry with Dodoria. This means he likely respects strength, meaning he'd possibly hang out with other strong members of the Frieza Force. All this to say, we're giving Zarbon a friend in this what if. Two, actually. These two close friends would be Apul and Orlin. Zarbon wasn't exactly best friends with these two, but he knew they were strong and so trusted them on the battlefield. And well, he didn't mind going to the occasional space bar when they had the chance. The point of this is to give him a slightly stronger drive to turn against Frieza, as Orlin is the alien who finds the village Vegeta attacked, and didn't bother asking the last survivor where the Saiyan had gone. This, like in the anime, causes Frieza to blast Orlin right in front of Zarbon. Much to his horror, though he was too frightened to say anything. Aside from that, the events play out as normal, with Zarbon following Frieza out of fear, as well as telling Apul about what happened to Orlin. Vegeta is beaten to a pulp, and Zarbon has to bring him back to the healing chamber, but instead assigns some random Frieza Force soldier instead of Apul, as he wants to keep the alien close to him just in case. While waiting for the Saiyan to wake up, Zarbon notes that Vegeta seemed to be able to sense people, their power or ki or something, without a scouter. The commander, along with Apul, begin attempting to use this ki sensing power, with Zarbon getting the very basics of it, while Apul isn't able to at all. Before Zarbon can really start using this ability though, Vegeta escapes and Frieza orders him and Apul to track the Saiyan down, or else. Both the aliens knew what that meant, and so swiftly flew off to find the prince. The two would arrive to find Vegeta and Krillin along with a Dragon Ball, but that isn't what catches Zarbon's eye. With his new ability to vaguely sense ki, the commander can sense that Vegeta has gotten strong, even stronger than his transformed state. He knows Vegeta would kill both he and Apul, but if he returned empty-handed, he'd be offed either way, so now was the time for a bargain to be struck. Before we fight, Vegeta, what if I said I could help you defeat Frieza?
I can defeat him on my own. Now transform so I can beat you at your best.
And what happens when you defeat me? Guess who comes in next? The Ginyus. And if you somehow beat them, then Frieza himself will come out. Face it, you need me alive, Vegeta. Zarbon made a good point, getting Vegeta's attention for a few minutes, but only a few. The commander explained a plan he had to trick Frieza, making it seem as if he had taken care of Vegeta before turning all the men against him and launching an all-out sneak attack while the Emperor had his guard down. This causes Vegeta to laugh, telling Zarbon something like that would never work. Those soldiers were far too weak.
How about this? You try that cheap trick while I go off and wish for immortality. Sounds perfect to me. Oh, and if you try anything...
Vegeta powers up, scaring everyone around him, sending a message that Zarbon heard loud and clear. With that, the Saiyan flew off, leaving Zarbon with Krillin and Bulma. Gohan soon arrives with a Dragon Ball of his own, and knowing they can't go back empty-handed, Zarbon asks to take it, but Krillin is understandably hesitant. However, being the smooth talker he is, Zarbon says that if they held onto it, Vegeta would have a hard time stealing it. The commander must have rolled a nat 20 because he managed to persuade Krillin into thinking this was a good idea. He gives it to Zarbon, who then flies back to Frieza's ship. There he reports that they managed to wrestle this from Vegeta, but he managed to get away, flying off before they could get the other 6. Frieza is absolutely livid, and so blasts Apul through the chest, causing Zarbon to get angry, nearly transforming then and there. But no, he had to keep calm if this mission were to work out.
Zarbon, you guard this Dragon Ball like your life depends on it. The Ginyus will handle Vegeta.
My lord, I can deal with him, there's no need.
Oh, I know exactly how you deal with him. I've already had the Ginyus summoned. They'll take care of these rebels left on Namek. For now, just keep that Dragon Ball safe and prepare our debriefing for the Ginyu's arrival.
Zarbon bowed and left Frieza to his devices, dragging Apul, who's just barely alive, to the healing chamber. The reptilian commander waits for his friend to heal while thinking of ways to deal with the Ginyus, with there only being one solution in his mind. We don't know much about Zarbon's race, nor his transformation, and this is an April Fool's what if, so I hope you don't mind me using some creative liberty. Zarbon's transformation is initially pretty weak, but here we'll say that the longer he stays in it, the stronger its multiplier gets. And this carries over at least partially, meaning he gets tiny Zenkais when transformed, but not after near-death battles. However, there is a drawback. While he gets stronger, his mind also becomes more animalistic, to the point where he can't even think after 5 or so minutes. But before the commander can do anything with his strategy, he senses the Ginyus entering the atmosphere and knows he has to meet up with Vegeta. He leaves a note for Apul before leaving out the back door, eventually finding the Zfighters and warning them, but it's a little too late.
Guys, the Ginyus are here and they're... Well, hello Zarbon, Ginyu said.
Oh, hi Ginyu. Wait, Ginyu? The reptile turns around to see the Toku Sentai, all of them looking rather annoyed at him.
My, Frieza's top commander coming out as turncoat. I wonder what he thinks of this. No matter, we'll be taking these Dargon balls or whatever they're called and giving them to Lord Frieza.
The Force easily takes the balls from our heroes, with Jace kicking Zarbon away from his in a particularly brutal fashion. Ginyu flies off, leaving Guldo to fight Krillin and Gohan, since I don't think Zarbon would be willing to risk his life just yet. While battling the Green Bean, Zarbon instead thinks of ways to defeat the remaining Force. He sighs before transforming. He then watches the fights play out, slowly gaining strength right as Vegeta blasts Recoome in the face. This is his chance. The reptile bursts forward and launches an elegant blaster right into Recoome's back, the blast badly injuring the brute, much to Vegeta's delight. This, however, angers Jace and Birder, who then fly in and begin fighting Zarbon. The reptile was utterly pummeled, likely worse than Vegeta, but before he can be finished off, Goku arrives, and that goes pretty much like it does normally. From here, Ginyu arrives, steals Goku's body while Jace and Zarbon fight, since the commander wouldn't just flee like Vegeta. However, while that happens, the prince has made his way to Frieza's ship. Usually this is where he destroys the last of the Frieza Force, but instead, he is met with Apul, who just recently recovered and has learned to sense ki, at least somewhat. Vegeta asks where the Dragon Balls are, and Apul actually tells him, though this prompts the Saiyan to get suspicious.
Wait, Zarbon wants these for himself, right? Why would you tell me where they are? You better not be up to something. No, all we want is to get rid of Frieza, I swear. And some of the men agreed with me, so we're on your side for now.
Vegeta decides to let Apul and the 10 or so other members live for now, but promises to keep an eye on them while they retrieve the balls. Yeah, Apul is pretty powerful, but that's like a power level of maybe 10k to Vegeta's greater than 40k right now. No chance Apul can steal the Dragon Balls from the Saiyan. Soon, Gohan and Krillin arrive, with Ginyu in Goku's body and Jace arriving shortly after that. A fight breaks out, with Apul helping Gohan and Krillin in their fight against Ginyu, him being surprisingly durable for a Frieza Force member. Once Goku and Zarbon, who are both pretty badly injured, get there, Ginyu gets utterly outclassed and beaten. I mean, really, all I can say is Ginyu and Goku's body gets beaten even harder than in canon. Goku is able to get his body back, but this time, while Ginyu is about to change with Vegeta, Apul is the one to fly in. He had been injured in the fight, but was the closest to Ginyu, so decided to shield Vegeta, knowing he was the strongest there at the moment. Ginyu thinks he's won for a second, only to notice he's in Apul's body. But before he can do anything, Vegeta blasts him to smithereens, much to Apul's chagrin. At this point, Zarbon, Apul, and Goku are put into rejuvenation tanks, while Vegeta, Krillin, and Gohan do their thing. Now at this point, Zarbon and Apul awaken around the same time Goku does, meaning Frieza is already in his final form. Vegeta is on death's door, and Krillin and Gohan are pretty much just watching the fights. Honestly, Apul and Zarbon are only able to watch, but the commander does have an idea. He transforms and orders Apul to fight him in order to grow strong enough to do something to Frieza. The two are pretty evenly matched since Apul can't use Ginyu's full power yet, making his power level around 35k or so. The two fight intensely even up until Piccolo has to hold off the Emperor. By this point, Zarbon has reached a power level of a couple 100,000. Sure, it's nothing compared to Frieza, but it's far better than Krillin and maybe even Gohan. The reptilian beast flies in to hold off Frieza, barely able to keep his mind focused since his beast side is slowly taking over. This, however, works in Zarbon's favor, as while Frieza holds him off with his tail, the reptile bites down on it, something the Emperor never expected. This doesn't do much damage to Frieza, but it does make him livid, and so he begins beating Zarbon down, slamming him into the ground before crushing him under a boulder. Before he could launch a blast, though, Apul launches a baked sphere at him, distracting the Emperor once more.
Oh, come on! First Zarbon and now you, Ginyu? Does this wretched planet turn everyone against me? Oh, I'm not Ginyu, it's sort of a long story,
Apul says, only to be blasted through the chest with a finger beam. Frieza is then hit by the Spirit Bomb, being caught completely off guard due to Zarbon and Apul's distraction. This time, he's heavily damaged, barely even able to walk, but still manages to shoot a beam into Piccolo before firing a beam through Krillin's heart, being slightly too weak to completely blow him up. Goku goes Super Saiyan, and while Zarbon is amazed at this, once he's ordered to flee, he has no second thoughts about that. Zarbon grabs Apul and Piccolo, while Gohan grabs Krillin, the two flying off and leaving Goku to fight Frieza, who's just being utterly demolished. That Spirit Bomb really did a number on him, and even once he's at 100%, he still stands zero chance against Goku. The remaining Force members on Frieza's ship approach Zarbon, asking what they should do, and the Reptilian tells them to set a course for Earth, only for everyone to be wished over to Earth, including the Frieza Force members, funnily enough. Goku and Frieza's fight play out much like in the anime, except Goku beats him quicker, allowing him to leave Namek a few minutes before it explodes, meaning there's no fake-out death. There is a slight problem though. While Gohan and Piccolo at least somewhat trust Zarbon, as he was cooperative the whole time, Vegeta doesn't. He blames the reptile for the destruction of planet Vegeta as well, and reminds everyone that he stood by idly while Namek was ravaged. For Hiffle's sake, he probably even planned the attacks on Namek. This does resonate with some of the Namekians, but Krillin then reminds Vegeta about his attack on Earth, along with the deaths of their friends by Nappa. The Saiyan states it isn't the same, that Zarbon has led countless attacks on other worlds and destroyed thousands of lives. You're right, Vegeta. I have. But once I got the chance, I successfully led a rebellion against Frieza, even if luck played a big part in that.
What was that? If it weren't for me, you wouldn't even be alive.
Vegeta grabbed onto Zarbon's collar, pulling him within inches of his face. And if it weren't for me, neither of us may be alive. Now, let's just leave it at that. Vegeta huffs before letting Zarbon go and walking off. The commander brushes himself off before looking back towards his men, who numbered only 20, 10 of which were engineers or pilots, so they really had no battle power. He wants to eventually lead the rebellion to King Cold directly, and eventually Cooler, since that guy could still be a problem. But with only 10 fighters and 1 ship, things weren't looking good. Luckily, Bulma was still into Zarbon, since he never transformed back when they met, meaning she'd let him and his soldiers stay at Capsule Corp. There, with the help of Krillin and, surprisingly, Yamcha, Zarbon learns of something called training. Now, I know many What If YouTubers skip over this, but in the anime, it's definitely implied the only training the Frieza Force members get is on the battlefield, and many of the higher-ups were just born with higher power levels. That said, upon learning of how Krillin trained on Earth, and the training Yamcha got with King Kai, Zarbon is amazed and wonders what his men could achieve. If humans with a power level of 2 could go to 40k, then him with a resting power level of around 25k would be monstrous. With that, Zarbon and his men begin training for King Cold, spending around a year and a half doing so while getting used to Earth life. While they train, let's go over the crew Zarbon has with him. Firstly, there's Commander Zarbon, followed by his lieutenants Apul and, once resurrected, Orlin. Then there's the grunts Cranberry, Raspberry, and Namol, who are Tuffles, since the only named humanoid-looking aliens are Tuffles, and I mean, come on, it just kind of works. Then there's Blueberry, who's a crocodile-like alien, Iru, who's a Namekian, Lit, a bird person, Napple, a Machian like Garlic Jr., Pear, who's an Arlean, or insect person, and finally, Mellow, who looks like a purple cat person. Huh, weird, Zarbon didn't know those existed. Anyways, these 11, along with Zarbon, spend many of their days training, though Apul makes sure they have at least one day to enjoy the Earth's food, which is honestly splendid. Way better than those freeze-dried foods the Frieza Force had. By the time King Cold arrives, each soldier is easily in the hundreds of thousands, along with Yamcha and Krillin since they trained as well. Once Mecha Frieza and Cold appear, Zarbon transforms, not caring if he goes crazy since this is exactly what he's been preparing for. The commander had trained harder than any of his men, actually reaching a power level of 1 million, with his transformed state getting to 3 million, though this pales in comparison to Frieza's 60 million. The commander cursed their luck. Even after all their training, they still hadn't surpassed Frieza. But luckily, a future warrior stepped in to stop the tyrant. A couple of future warriors, actually. One blonde-haired one sliced Frieza to bits, while another teal-colored one blasted Cold to smithereens, leaving the soldiers alone though.
Alright, you Frieza Force soldiers. We know you followed him out of fear. We're giving you the chance to run off and change your ways. But I promise, if any of you hurt anyone else, well, you saw what I can do.
The remaining Frieza Force members hurriedly clambered onto the ship, it then flying off without another word. Trunks and this new kid, named Pommel, explain why they're there, and that Goku will be there shortly. Zarbon, along with Vegeta, examine these kids from afar, noting how strange they were. This Pommel kid was the same shade as Zarbon and looked strikingly like him. Perhaps he was another member of his race. He knew they were still around, and a few of them were within the ranks of the Frieza Force, but he never expected to meet one on Earth. The reptile attempts to ask this mysterious warrior who he is and if he's from their homeworld, but the fighter refuses to answer either of those questions and looks pretty nervous about talking to him. Zarbon notes how weird this person is and simply walks off, waiting for Goku so he can know what these two are really here for. Once Goku arrives, Trunks and Pommel explain why they're there, with Zarbon having Iru listen in with his enhanced hearing. What comes next is a shock. Apparently the blue one over there is Zarbon's son, and the purple-haired boy is Vegeta's. The reptile's jaw nearly hits the floor from how hard it dropped. He has a son? He hasn't even met any Earthling women. Well, aside from the occasional one he talks to when getting ice cream with the boys, but still. The reptile shook his head of these thoughts, knowing he had to keep focused on these androids coming. Once Trunks and Pommel leave, the reptile tells his men, while Piccolo tells the other Z-Fighters about the upcoming threat, and decides they'd stay on Earth for a few years to aid it in the battle against the androids. They all agree, and so, the 3 years of training begin. Meanwhile, off on a desolate planet, Cooler sits atop a throne.
Monsieur Cooler, Lord Frieza and King Cold have been wiped out. It would seem your rule goes uncontested,
Salza said, bowing to Cooler. Oh, Salza, it's not that simple. Whoever ended my little brother's life is the rightful ruler, but if I were to crush them, well then, my rule would go uncontested. Set a course for Earth. We have some Saiyans to take care of. But that's where we're going to end the story for right now. If you enjoyed it, maybe rebel against the like button, or possibly even elegantly blast that subscribe button. Okay, ramble time. Guys, we made it to 300 subs. I apologize for not having stuff out sooner. I promise we'll have the finale of What If Deku Was a Uchiha out soon. I recorded it, but it just wasn't good enough, so I have to redo that. But the script is all done. Also, I'll have an interesting what if concerning Raditz for my 300 sub special. Not sure if you guys like that, but I think it's a cool idea. I honestly appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope we can keep growing. Honestly, seeing so many people like these Dragon Ball what ifs is pretty crazy. I might become a Dragon Ball channel by the end of this month. Don't worry though, for you My Hero and Naruto enthusiasts, I'll continue my work on those. I actually have an idea for overhaul training Deku, and maybe Kimimaro joining Zabuza, but those will be projects for the future. Anyways, I've rambled for far too long. You guys have a good day or night wherever you are. That's it for now. Bye bye.